Hello, welcome to the Level 1 News. Today is December 9th, 2020, and we're doing business and social media.
December is melting away rapidly, and I'm not comfortable with this.
I'm not comfortable with it either because we have a big project that has to be launched before the end of the month. And I know we're going to have like that weird week of Christmas as well.
But everything's going to be better in 2021, right?
Remember that comment I made last episode of the news where it's like, maybe we'll look back on 2020 as the good times.
Maybe.
That's the darkest timeline.
My favorite thing is the politicians that were like, you watch, after election day, all this stuff's just going to disappear. Guess what? It didn't.
I think we're hitting like 2 to 3K deaths a day.
We did suddenly get a deluge of vaccines.
They're not. They haven't made it up to us plebs yet, so I don't know.
I'm fine with that. Oh, did you see that Clinton and Obama and was it HW? They claimed that they would get one.
Oh yeah, like, they're going to live stream it or something. Yeah.
Well, how do we know that's what's in there?
It's just saline.
Just meth.
Just
and it's the good presidential meth too.
They're gonna just pump Clinton to the gills with meth. Get him right on that Epstein plane, wherever the new location is.
Yeah, that would be, with the whole Epstein thing, you got to think back to his impeachment thing, and it's like that seems much less serious.
That was just him, like during the week, keeping the edge off.
Yeah. It's like, why am I being impeached for this? Do you have any idea what I've done on Fantasy Island?
She's fully grown. What are you talking about? Anyway, 2021 could be a new level of darkness. Prepare yourself for that. I'm not saying expect it, but maybe you should. And you should definitely be prepared. Now, let's say that you are a factory or a warehouse worker.
I thought you were going to go your usual dark path and say a faceless cog in the machine.
Well,
also accurate.
But very necessary right now because we still need, let's say that you work at the Lysol wipe factory. They aren't shutting that down for any reason. We have to have those.
It sure seems like they have.
We're desperate for them. You're cranking them out at rapid pace, and you have your job security. You're feeling good, but Mr. Jeff Bezos might have a little addition to your building that you won't care for.
Amazon to roll out tools to monitor factory workers and machines. Sensors, computer vision hardware, as tech giant pushes into the industrial sector. Good news, it's compatible with the existing closed-circuit television systems. It's going to use AI to decide if you're driving the tractor in the wrong part of the factory, or you're going too fast, or you're not social distancing, or you're not wearing a mask. But the sensors are wireless and cheap and easily deployed and last forever. And they're called Monotron. It's one of the lesser-known cousins of the Decepticon family.
It sounds kind of like ominous. I don't know if I like it.
Yeah, I'm sure that was the point.
Monotron was literally just a monitor.
Yeah.
They used him. He was alive, but they didn't acknowledge it.
Oh, we missed the story from how Google was getting in trouble for the whole protesting thing. There was a follow-up to the Pinkertons Amazon story from last week, which is, those protests that were supposed to happen on Black Friday. They shut them right down, and it will probably be a story next week, but I think the labor board or somebody's investigating because they were so effective in knowing exactly what was going to happen because they had people that were implanted in whatever that was for months.
I bet you these sensors are built with future plans to anti-union.
Yeah.
I like add some features like that to them. As soon as they can lobby enough to get the legal stuff, groundwork changed, just update the quick software update.
You go to your supervisor and it's like, hey, Tom, I think we're going to organize, they're doing a little meeting after work, just, some of the workers here in the thing. And it's like, oh, yeah, let me just, then there's like a little button under the table. It's like unionization alarm.
You don't even need the button. You just surreptitiously throw some gang signs to the sensor. And it triggers it.
You throw the Wu-Tang symbol. That's in the manual for managers. It's like if you do that, then it's an immediate silent alarm. That'd be amazing.
I was just thinking, if there's a gathering of more than 5 people, if you just happen to intersect with 4 other people on the floor, that automatically sends an alarm.
I'm totally going to do that at my house. If I make the the Vulcan symbol into the cameras, it's a silent distress call into the.
It's the 36 chambers of anti-union technology. And if you're thinking, well, what will Amazon do next? I mean, they basically own the world at this point. How can they take their awful technology and supercharge it to make it more able to rule our lives? And the answer, in hindsight, seems obvious.
Amazon is laying its groundwork for its own quantum computer, saying that depending on efforts to harness the technology and crunch seconds amounts of data, blah, blah, blah. This article is about, like, Amazon had a recent event, and this was one of the things to come out of that is their quantum computer. But I thought some of their other stuff was even more interesting. They've got their own CPUs, Graviton, and, they're just rolling out a bunch of changes to their infrastructure, and it's really interesting stuff.
Is the dog back, or did you just make a squeaking sound, Krista?
That was Rue. She came in briefly, looked out the window, whined, and then left.
Oh, okay. It's good to know that she has access to the room.
She does. She pushed the door open with her nose.
It's getting a little late to be filling up your Christmas list, especially when you probably shouldn't be shopping all that much.
Especially with computer components, because even last-gen stuff is sold out.
And so NVIDIA has a new announcement that will show you another wonderful video card that you're never going to be able to find. And this price that's on here, just don't even assume. Put another $200 on that, because that's the world we're living in now.
Minimum $200.
NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060 Ti, $399. So the results are out. It's basically as fast as a 2080 Super, 2070 Super, 2080 Super, mostly 2080 Super. 8 gigs of VRAM. It's pretty fast. There are still supply issues. The supply chain is suffering. The container ship, lost hundreds of containers overseas, or miners bought them, or whatever.
Stopped off in China, and when it left, the containers were just gone.
Weird. And then there was $175 million in the bank account. I don't know what happened. It's weird.
The other thing we learned about 2020 is that a lot of the big phone companies were, first of all, not selling phones. And second of all, because of not selling phones, they're like, you know what? Maybe we don't need the fastest, newest, hottest Qualcomm processors in our phones. Which makes you wonder, where is this one going to go?
Qualcomm's new Snapdragon 888 processor will power Android flagships of 2021. Qualcomm is ready for all this to be over too. I wonder if that's what happened. Like, analysts were looking at, sales of like phones and stuff that is involved with you commuting to work and just the general state of the economy. And it's like, nobody can afford an $800 video card. Nobody can afford a $1,500 video card. Nobody can afford these new video game consoles. Let's manufacture really conservatively. When the reality is everybody is trapped at home and desperate for something to do.
Nah, because those same people understand the Americans' relationship with credit.
We'll
will
just buy anything.
We will totally rob our future selves for a 3090. We'll do it.
We absolutely will.
Oh, PS5,
Not me personally.
No, I did. No,
I'm in the minority.
It's not worth $1,500. It's worth maybe $1,000.
But the big claim to fame for this Qualcomm chip, the 5G is on the chip, whereas every other chip so far had to be an extra component to stuff in your tiny little phone.
Oh, Qualcomm's done it again. In before Apple says that's anti-competitive. We can't buy the 888 and use Intel's substandard 5G modem. That's anti-competitive.
But as you mentioned, they definitely are looking at the numbers when it comes to what should we manufacture? What can the people actually still buy in these hard times?
Definitely not food.
The numbers not looking great in the phone world.
Gartner says global smartphone sales declined 5.7% in third quarter of 2020. Well, yeah, you don't have to take your phone off charge. The number one reason to buy a new smartphone is because the battery crapped out.
I'm surprised it only dropped 5.7%.
Well, that's third quarter. In the first two quarters, it was a 20% drop.
Wow.
So it's kind of coming back,
No.
but it's going to be down on the year.
Yeah.
Unless somehow everybody gets a new phone for Christmas, which I doubt.
Intel's new x86 phone on the 10 nanometer process is finally... Oh, no. Never mind.
Now, when it comes to, it's like, who are they building these new pieces of technology for? Who can afford these? Well, one man, perhaps, could afford a new phone every millisecond of his life
Elon Musk will consider having Tesla acquire a legacy automaker. It's doing really well, and so somebody asked him that, and that one question in the one interview was turned into this entirely long article. But knowing Elon Musk from the huge number of Elon Musk articles that we do, this is a throwaway nonsense article where it's just literally like, if you had the opportunity to buy GM for pennies on the dollar, would you do it? And he's like, yeah, that would make sense because they own a lot of things.
I like the picture they chose for the article, though, where there's no light in his eyes. That was a well composed shot of a billionaire.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Do you think they asked him for a pose,
Yes.
or is this just...
No, they absolutely staged that.
Where should I look? Just off in the middle distance somewhere.
And another quote that came from that same interview that turned into a story, this time on a different news organization, is about SpaceX instead.
Elon Musk is highly confident that SpaceX will land humans on Mars by 2026. So, Mr. Musk, can you remind me when full self-driving is going to be here again?
That project is boring to me now. I've moved on to space, in case you didn't notice. So I would appreciate if you didn't bring that up.
If the interviewers keep bringing that up constantly, he's just going to deliver a box of corpses to Mars and then be like, look, see, we're on Mars. It's like, that's just a bunch of corpses. I don't know.
They got there fine and they're perfectly healthy, but it seems like they've all become separatists. They refuse to send back any sort of proof. We should ignore Mars from now on. It's too dangerous. Now, if you'll harken back to when Tesla was not such a winner and they were actually embroiled in a lot of controversy that had to do with the safety concerns at their plants, that tent, remember the tent?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, you can't do this. This is madness. And he was like, no, it's going to be fine. Well, there was another force conflicting with him at that time who were all short sellers of Tesla. And they did everything they could to find out his dirty secrets. They may have gone a little too far.
Tesla whistleblower Martin Tripp ordered to pay $400,000 to settle hacking case. This is fascinating. We've covered this at pretty much every turn, but you should go back and reread the summary. This did not turn out how I expected it to, although Martin Tripp fired his lawyers about 6 months ago and has been handling the case himself, which probably has a fair bit of this.
There's a quote about that.
The short sellers also helped fund his legal defense here, or part of his legal, but they caught him red-handed copying files and stuff like that. This is the guy that, Musk called the sheriff on and said, oh, he's going to come shoot up the plant. And so, that was...
Which was a false police report.
Yes.
That should have been acted upon.
Yes. That came out in this court case, but apparently it didn't really matter in the end.
But this guy does seem like a bit of an asshole.
Yeah.
Probably made some stuff up. You think the short seller is going to cover his $400K?
No.
I'm sure he doesn't have that, right?
No, I don't think so.
He was a rich man. So that's unfortunate for him.
I like our next story because it descends from grifting into fraud.
Yeah, and this was not a hard one to see coming because, what was it, last month when it was revealed that the Nikola, they had their big truck. They had a functional truck, right? Well, no, they didn't have a functional truck. What they did was they tilted the camera and rolled it downhill. And everybody was like, oh, God, what does this mean? Is this company even going to exist in a month?
And GM was like, don't worry, we're involved.
Right,
oh, wait.
Yeah. The GM partnership. They're like, GM would never partner with a company that is just pure fraud, right?
Surely GM is not that clueless about the electric car.
Well, we now have not the definitive answer, but I think we know where this is going.
Nikola stock plunges as company cancels its Badger pickup truck. That's not the headline I would have gone with. The headline I would have gone with was GM is basically pulling out except for a memorandum of understanding that they're going to supply hydrogen fuel cell technology.
Which means nothing.
Yes.
That's not enforceable in any way.
Yeah.
So if they probably just did that as a courtesy.
Yeah. So I would love to have been a fly on the walls during those meetings because I imagine there was a lot of screaming and yelling.
Ars Technica has used this same stock photo, or it's not a stock photo, but they've used the same photo again, but I forgive them because it's really good.
I think that this is probably also this is the first sign in there's probably a prosecutor reviewing this, and it's probably going to result in criminal charges for at least a couple of people.
Maybe. At least, they might try to get some money, but that's going to be blood from a stone, right?
Yeah.
Too bad. Well, Verizon is another company that likes to make big promises and rarely, if ever, delivers in full. But
or even a little bit.
Eventually, if you fight them long and hard enough in court and throw away enough taxpayer dollars, maybe you can make them fulfill their contracts.
Verizon is going to be wiring up 500,000 homes with FiOS to settle a years-long fight with New York City. The ISP didn't connect the entire city as required, but it will connect another 500,000 households by 2023. These are going to be very carefully chosen high-density, high-rise apartments. I'll tell you that right now.
Disgusting.
Remember when we were supposed to have high-speed internet all over the U.S.?
Remember when we paid billions of dollars as taxpayers for that? Almost, since that was enacted, it's approaching $500 billion the taxpayers have paid for that in tax breaks and credits and stuff to have fiber deployed literally everywhere.
How much?
I'm so glad I can find fiber on every house that I look at on Zillow.
How much? Somebody should do the math. Based on the current average rate, how long would $500 billion buy internet access for everybody in South Korea?
Probably decades.
And it would be good internet, too.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week. It was being hinted at, and now it's happening. No surprise, I don't think.
Salesforce has bought Slack in a $27.7 billion mega deal. Here's something fun to speculate about. What sorts of creative things is Salesforce going to do to extract $27.7 billion from the current users of Slack over the next 5 years?
Well, I think they knew that telecommunication was suddenly going to be a huge part of the business world, and they didn't really have any foot in that door.
Slack is IRC with GIFs.
Yeah, well, I like Slack, but I don't think it's worth that many $1 billion.
Unless you're going to extract a lot of money from the people that use it because they're hostages, which is what Salesforce does.
But now there's such a huge supply of competition in the marketplace.
Yeah. Teams is getting to be less awful, but there's so many other options for things that are self-hosted or quasi-self-hosted that are going to have a much lower cost of ownership. Heck, Linode. You can deploy stuff on Linode and get Slack and Teams-like functionality self-hosted right in the web browser.
And you know what? It costs way less than $27 billion.
Yeah, or whatever you're going to have to pay for that.
So one thing that you might be getting under the old Christmas tree this year would be some gift cards to some online streaming services because they're getting more and more popular, and there's so many of them. So many, which is why it kind of bothers me that we keep week after week getting more of them. Because at this point, if you got them all, you're now paying more than you were with cable channels that carried the same stuff.
Discovery to launch a streaming service in January starting at $4.99 per month. Verizon customers get the year free. So here's what I would like to do. I'd like to do a lawsuit against Verizon where I stream a bunch of stuff from Discovery for free that hopefully doesn't count against my data cap, because if it definitely doesn't count against my data cap, then lawsuit, and I want the equivalent amount of data added for things that are not Discovery.
So you're going to get some hot brands in this package. How about HGTV and Food Network?
Well, that's like prime old lady.
I wonder, you know, if we look at Spotify, let's stop for a second and look at the music industry as a model for what's going to happen with television, because it gets dark fast. So like with streaming in the beginning, the rates were terrible. But now the rates are beyond terrible. Did you see some of the stuff that came out from Spotify? It was like, here's a new artist thing, and Spotify's doing this thing. It's like, oh, as an artist, you did this, this, and this. There were some people that were really pissed off because they had the stats from Spotify, and it was like, your plays are up 130%. You reached 87% new people, blah, blah, blah. And they'd been on Spotify for the last 6 or 7 years, and they had gone up and done better on Spotify every year. But the amount of revenue that they got this year from Spotify was 63% less than 3 years ago.
It's not surprising. Yeah, I don't know how this shakes down to the TV show creators and producers. But I imagine the back catalog of those. I mean, how much are you getting per episode of those like Hitler secret type shows?
Well, look at like what Alton Brown is able to do himself with like, because he's on Food Network, was on Food Network, and he's able to do his own cooking show, which is fairly well done. I mean, he's got a production budget to do that, and he's able to get more money out of YouTube, which is admittedly terrible compared to Food Network.
I miss Bon Appetit. I can't believe what they did.
Are they not on it at all anymore?
No, one chick, the orange chick, ruined it for everybody.
I thought Claire started her own channel.
Did she?
The one chick started her own. She's on Binging with Babish. But Claire, I don't know where Claire is. I thought Claire started her own channel. I got
to be a part of Claire's channel if she did it. I mean, that's the reason to watch. Right?
She had a ring on her finger, Ryan.
Doesn't matter. You can still do programming or whatever. It's fine.
We'll live in sin. We talked about a lot about Consumer Reports and their on again, off again relationship with Tesla. At first, they liked them and they ranked them very highly, and then they got some complaints, and then they got more complaints,
and then the bumper fell off, and Consumer Reports was like, "Oh, what are we thinking?"
But the Tesla crowd was very angry. They felt like it was not fair. And I imagine after this headline, they will be even angrier.
New electric cars have problems in the latest Consumer Reports survey, and Consumer Reports decides to predict poor reliability on EVs it hasn't even evaluated yet. It's a new technology. It's just not as exciting, etc., etc.
So, the older ones, the Leaf and I can't remember the other one, were good. But the new ones, the Nero, the e-tron, and the Model Y were garbage in a variety of ways. And they were like, you know what? Based on these three being terrible, we're just going to assume that all the new ones are going to have these same problems, which is weird.
I think that it's surprising that electrics would be that problematic, because it seems like that there would be opportunity for somebody to design an electric that is super generic. Like the seats and all the componentry and everything is generic. The control electronics are generic. The motors are relatively generic, and that is the cost, like that drives the cost down, because there's like just the number of components that go into the device is relatively small.
Well, they sort of covered that, and
they did, yeah.
The ball bearings were bad in the Nero. The Tesla, I think most of the actual car parts were fine. They just really slapped it together. So like paint and fitting and build quality and stuff like that is what cost them all of their points.
Yeah, when it was talking about that, it reminded me of the some of the stuff that Elon Musk said in that interview, because he's like, oh, we could, cannibalize those parts of the GM production lines. It's like, yeah, that would actually probably lead to a higher quality Tesla.
If you remember when they were going through like the production hell, they couldn't get standardized parts.
Yeah.
So they were like, remember the cooling system?
Yeah, it's just parts from Home Depot.
Like they went to Lowe's and got some trim.
Yeah.
And built a little cage for it. Consumer Report's not a fan of that, I guess. Google is still trying to figure out how they can deliver the news while not upsetting the news companies, because the news companies feel like only they should get traffic. So what do? And they're constantly trying to rehash it. This is an interesting gambit to take.
Google says its news showcase will add free access to paywalled stories. Google is actually paying for this access. They've set aside $1 billion and emphasized that is only an initial payment of $1 billion to publishers. But this is what they want your news experience to be. News tailored to your specific interests or things that you flagged or subscribed to or whatever. And Google will license and pay for that content.
They won't choose it, though. They will leave choosing the stories that go into the showcase to the news companies themselves, which is interesting. I don't know. I use Google News, and I'm amazed at how little interest I have to show into a thing for Google to be like, we'll tell you everything about this.
You're going to see stories about this for years.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I don't even know what I did to trigger it.
I still occasionally get Barbie Dreamhouse content.
Really?
Yeah.
Here's one that I absolutely cannot explain. Google feels that I must learn everything about Jessica Simpson. And yeah, I mean, certainly she's a beautiful girl, but you know, she's getting up there. I think if you're just going to look at beautiful girls, you'd probably go a little bit younger.
Google knows you better than you know yourself.
Maybe. It's like, I know you're into MILFs. Yeah, I started watching the new Mandalorian. I thought that was pretty good.
I have not.
You been watching that?
No.
I like the episodic nature where it's kind of like they're following a main theme, but for the most part, they're just out having adventures. I think that's what you should do with Star Wars.
It seems to be well received as like the space western that was intended when Star Wars was created.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But it brought up an interesting thing about the nature of streaming technology and media that you never own. Because the fact that you never own it means that you can never be sure how it was originally intended to be seen.
Oh, they really 1984'd this episode.
They really did.
Disney digitally removes the Mandalorian's accidental crew member cameo. They don't have pictures in this video in this article.
I think they do. Yeah,
They do. There's one down at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't. It's
I can't
in here
see it.
somewhere.
Yeah, I can't.
It's hard to make out.
They did another article on this because you can obviously get 2 articles out of this story, and they have another picture where they digitally removed the red flash or whatever.
Oh, to show who found that.
I know, right?
Now, I'm not a Disney Plus subscriber, so when I watch The Mandalorian, it's the weirdest thing. It just shows up on my hard drive.
It's crazy.
And I get rid of it because I know that's probably not something I should have, but I do watch it first. And it's a very dark show, especially the 4K rips. I mean, the files that show up on my hard drive, very dark, extremely dark. Sometimes it's hard to see what's going on. I can't imagine how anybody spotted that dude.
Are you meant to watch it in the HDR or something?
That's like what they said with Game of Thrones, right? With the finale, everyone was complaining, I can't tell shit what's happening right now in the last battle. And then they were like, oh, you need to have special settings turned on your TV. And it's like, oh, shut up.
Maybe. I don't know. It's a good show, though. I enjoy it.
Maybe that's like the trend right now in filming is like make it really dark.
Well, by the time you guys watch this, it will be the 8th or 9th?
9th.
Cyberpunk.
9th, yeah.
It's Cyberpunk Day. Everybody's going to be playing video games today.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
It turns out that possibly because we're all locked at home, we're all playing more video games anyway.
Americans of all ages are spending more on video games, according to VentureBeat.com. It makes sense because what else you gonna do? Wah, wah.
Is this World of Tanks? So one of the most amazing, they broke this down by statistical category. The most amazing one, 45 to 54-year-olds, up 76%. It was probably pretty low to begin with.
Yeah.
Right.
What else are you going to do?
I don't know. 55 to 64 increased by 29%. That's
Are they
cool.
counting mobile games in this?
They're counting every kind of game, yes.
That makes sense, yeah.
I didn't adopt video games. I adopted redoing my kitchen. That was my pandemic project.
There are literally video games where you can redo your kitchen.
But then it'll be nicer. What, Krista?
I said yours was your whole pandemic project was redoing that house.
Yeah. And it's over now. Well, pretty much. And
are you empty inside?
I am a little, yeah.
Now you have to enjoy the house.
It didn't feel the darkness. I tell you, I'm really enjoying the bathrooms. Every time I go to take a shower or do anything in the bathroom, it's like, this is amazing. Like,
you got good water pressure at that point?
Yeah. Oh, that was a story in and of itself. I had to dig up the sidewalk, and it was insane. I did not have to pay for that because that was a problem with the utility company. I just had to prove that it was a problem with the utility company, which is an uphill battle. But now it's perfect, and the pipes are all new. There's not a stitch of galvanized or cast iron or anything old. Well, there's a little bit in like one disused bathroom, but the main bathroom, and it's like I feel a new sense of privilege that I didn't have before. Where it's like if you can design your own bathroom for your exact needs, that is a life-changing experience.
Are you?
I don't know if it would be.
Are you all moved in yet?
Yeah.
Completely moved in.
Yep. Everything's not unpacked, but I've been staying there, so it works out.
I haven't seen the old house on Zillow.
Oh
'Cause
yeah,
I check Zillow every day.
that's it. That is in process. It's not. That's out of my hands. That happens whenever they get to it.
Yeah.
Well, we have just 2 social media stories today. It was not a big week for social media. We did cover some stuff in government about social media because they're getting sued by the government. I'm always curious, like where do you put this? Government? I figure it's whoever's making the action, right? If the government's doing the suing, put it in the government section. Anyway, Facebook, obviously, their MO is find a company that you think is going to be successful that has something that you don't, buy it, and eventually drive out all the old employees. They haven't gotten that far with this one yet, but they have done the buying part.
Facebook buys customer service software maker Kustomer, and rumor has it was for less than $1 billion. The specific terms of the deal have not been disclosed, but Facebook sees this as an opportunity for helping businesses on Facebook manage their customer interactions, but also across platforms, because that was the whole draw with customers. Like, you're interacting with customers on Facebook and Twitter and on your website and via email and chat and even phone calls. Kustomer handles it all because we're customer relationship management software.
So eventually, the idea is that if you need to order a pizza or schedule some service for one of your appliances or something, or get your car, then Google or Facebook Messenger will be completely integrated with businesses. So you just go on Facebook and deal with all that stuff.
I would love to have a service like that could be like competent, because like my laundry room, I need to have a right hand exhaust for my dryer instead of out the back. And the dryer supports that. And I watched a video on like how to do that online, and it was like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to do this. I would love it if there was a website or a piece of software or something I could go and be like, is there a technician that would install, a right-hand dryer exhaust on this particular model dryer? And what is the charge? And if it's like $100, yes, I absolutely would just pay somebody to do that.
But the problem here is going to be the same problem I run into when I'm trying to buy takeout food from these little mom and pop places, where Facebook is their only point of contact. And
Right.
Facebook makes it nearly impossible to access their stuff without an account.
Yeah. Facebook needs to know who you are. Facebook
Yeah.
needs to know who you are, even if you're just going to enjoy your Oculus Rift that you bought, which is a little insidious.
Well, to be honest, they don't care if you enjoy it or not. But if you're going to use it, they need to know. And finally, a story out of Australia that shows that social media can be weaponized in a very, very destructive way that could actually, if you really wanted to play this all the way out, it could lead to war.
Yeah. Australia demands an apology from China after fake image of soldier posted on social media. It was an Australian soldier with a bloody knife to the throats of Afghanistan children.
The Globe and Mail doesn't even have it?
Yeah, they
No,
don't.
there's no picture. I was trying to scroll through and find it.
The rest of the story here, though, is that there were some soldiers in Australia that have gotten in trouble for killing and or maiming people in Afghanistan. So the picture was faked, but the story is real. Not the children part, but well, maybe the children part.
I don't know if I was just like a blind spot here, or if it was all the election and everything going on. I didn't hear about that story at all.
Yeah, nothing.
And I definitely peruse the kinds of websites that like to discuss war crimes.
Yeah. And Australia, usually it's the Americans that are in trouble because, we've hired Blackwater or somewhere and they're overworked and creating problems. And this is Australia.
Now, China is in a little bit of a tiff with Australia. The latest volley in that was they raised the tariff on Australian wine by 200%. So there's definitely a political angle here, but China's not backing down. They're like, yeah, okay, we faked it, but we faked it to prove a point, which is the Australians are murdering people in Afghanistan. I don't know how China's directly involved there.
Yeah. That seems like just stirring the pot.
I mean,
To stir the pot, but
aren't a lot of people in Afghanistan of the Muslim religion?
Mm-hmm.
And how does China treat those people?
Mm-hmm.
Do they need more kidneys? Is that what this is about?
The dark reality is that those kidneys are used as ingredients for the iPhone 12. That's what makes Apple devices Apple. They run on human organs.
I don't know. But it is a disturbing image. You'll have to go look at it somewhere else. Actually, it's probably good we can't show it to you because YouTube probably demonetizes.
That, and it's just like, do I need to see that? No. Well, I'm sure you can find it on the internet somewhere.
Somebody is reviewing all the stuff that Linode monetized, and they're just like, what? We paid for that? What is what?
But a lot of you have been clicking that link. Thank you.
Yes, we really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Don't
forget to do your Devember projects, because there's giveaways there too. There's so much giveaways. Can you tell it's the end of the year? There's a lot of stuff we need to give away in this room.
And don't forget to build your exciting Minecraft. Chris, I forgot to mention that Kustomer, the company that Facebook bought, they also use a K where they should use a C, just like you.
No, K is fine for cuss sounds. The issue is C represents the K sound and the S sound in English, and it should just be one or the other.
But the traditional, I have to think that the term Krista originates from Christ, right?
Right. But Christ is spelled CH, and that doesn't make sense either. It should just be K.
But your family is laughing in the face of God at the spelling of your name.
Harvey Krista.
Anyway, despite Krista's misspelled name, you must impress her on the Minecraft server if you want to earn those prizes.
We'll play stream a little bit of the server as well and see what people are building.
We will have already done that, Krista.
By then. But we'll do another one. You don't know.
Oh, 2 weeks of that, huh?
Yeah, Wendell loves it.
We need at least one more horde in 7 days to die, and then we'll be all right.
You're really into that.
That's true.
Yeah. We might be able to stream Cyberpunk. It actually has a streamer mode where it turns off all the copyright nonsense.
But it's single player.
Yeah, so
I'm not sure if I'm interested in Cyberpunk. I mean, like, I would watch someone else play it, but like it looks like Cyberpunk GTA. But not as interesting as San Andreas.
I'm ashamed to admit I'm gonna buy Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Me too. Didn't RimWorld go multiplayer? Isn't there a multiplayer plugin for that?
There's a mod.
Architect just
There's it's gaming talk all of a sudden, chat. There's a new game called Cultivation Simulator, and they straight up copied RimWorld, but it's Chinese. It's like Chinese history based RimWorld.
Strange.
So yeah, we gotta check that out. Twitch. Team PGP. Come and join us on Twitch and see these magical things that we're talking about.
Yes. Anyway, we will see you guys there, and we'll see you guys Friday for the last episode of the news.